Welcome to the Crack the Code podcast. So excited to have you back here today and with my special friend, Michelle. Michelle is a 27-year award-winning high school special education teacher turned entrepreneur. She's a wife, adoptive, and special needs mom. For most of her adult life, Michelle has worked with teens who do not want to do anything she wanted them to do. So she got really good at follow-up in a way that collects and connects people. She's helped many businesses turn their follow-up from a fear-based action into a very successful business strategy. Most recently, Michelle's launched a new business, turning the idea of legacy on its head, focusing on the notion of living into legacy rather than just leaving it behind. She launched the Living Your Legacy podcast and is currently writing a book with her youngest son about his journey to becoming a real estate investor at the age of 11. Michelle loves to support other special needs parents in living into their own legacies for their children. So awesome to have you here, Michelle.
Thanks so much, Cora. I was so excited that you invited me.
Yeah. And before we kind of get into your stuff, I would love to hear a little bit more about this book that you're writing with your other son.
Yeah, one of the pieces of our legacy has to do with my oldest son who has significant special needs. And ultimately, what we want to do is buy him his own home where he will live with a couple of friends, because that's what he really wants to do, with support. And along the way of creating that journey, we thought, gosh, we probably should do some research and some work into real estate investing, because we've only ever bought homes that we've lived in. So we started doing some research and talking to people and hosting meetings. And along the way, discovered that my youngest son is super entrepreneurial and was very interested in not only us doing it for our oldest son, but how he could do it for himself. And so at the age of 11, he actually put his own money into a real estate deal along with us, because he's a minor, so he can't do it on his own, and made a profit. And then did it again and made a profit. And currently, as of now, he is age 13. He has money in two deals that are not yet completed. He has money in the down payment for a rental property that we purchased last year, and he is currently collecting part of the rent. So I wanted to share that story with the world, because it's not usual for kids that young to be that interested. And how we work together with him, our perspective and his perspective, because as he says, he wants to be the richest person he knows when he's 20.
If you know what, he's well on his way. Most kids have no interest in money or any idea what to do with it. I'm sure he's going to be a massive real estate investor or something by the time he's allowed to get his license. That's so cool.
That's his goal.
Yeah, he'll be amazing at it. And you'll probably have more experience than most adults getting into it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about this legacy and what led you to that, because I know it's sort of wrapped around your other son.
It is. My oldest son joined our family through adoption. Both our boys are adopted, but my oldest son joined our family at 23 hours old. He was fresh into the world. And by the age of 6 months, we discovered that he had some pretty significant things going on. Stuff wasn't working out for him the way it said it would in the books. And that led us on a 4.5-year journey to figure out the depth and breadth of his challenges. They're big and they're going to be lifelong. So he is currently almost 19, which in Canada means that he joins the world of adults. And we have to really be thinking about what we want his adult life to look like. Where do we want him to live? Do we want him to be able to have a job? All kinds of those questions are starting to come up. And that really led us to start thinking about, what do we want for him in 20 years, 30 years, 50 years? What would we like to see? What kind of life do we want him to live? And ultimately, we decided government-funded programs are great, but it's really a case of trying to meet the needs of everyone. You meet the needs of no one, really. So we did some searching and found that we weren't really happy with the idea of housing and what they were offering. We would prefer to be able to do something on our own, which led us to think about this as a legacy, buying our son a house and having him actually live with his friends, which is, he talks about it all the time. That's the experience he wants to have. And it got me thinking, why can't we do that? Why can't we make that happen for him? And so that's led us on this journey to create this legacy for him, to buy him a house. Now, rider on this, we live in a super
Yeah.
expensive area of Canada. So this is a long goal. Going to take us a while and some effort to make it happen. But I'm so excited to see what kind of model we can create and hopefully support other families as they want to do what they want to do to create legacies for their children. And the idea being, this is about creating it and living into it today. The decisions we make today have a profound impact on what happens in 10 years. So instead of waiting until it's almost too late to make a choice, we want to make those choices now and create an extraordinary legacy for and around our son.
Yeah. And that's so amazing because I know, there is a book somebody wrote where they went around and interviewed people that were elderly to see what kind of things they regretted or whatnot from their lives. And no one ever said, oh, I wished I'd gone on more holidays or I just, stayed home and did blah, blah, blah. Everyone always wished that they'd had more impact on others. And
Mhm.
finding a legacy to do would definitely fill that bill. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks. I didn't know about that book. That sounds
It's
amazing.
yeah. I mean, you think about that, and now and it sounds a little bit morbid, but some days, and you kind of think of, why am I doing this? Like, what do you want people to think about when you're gone? Like when if
Mhm.
you have the opportunity to know when your time is up, like what do you feel like? Like some days you might not feel like working on your business, but if you can think about long term, like what is my goal? What's my accomplishments going to be? That might kind
Mhm.
of stir you on to get going with it. And so I
Mhm.
love your whole idea of living into your legacy and doing it now, like
Mhm.
figuring out something and your kids can go along with it too. And I know maybe you can tell us a little bit of story about Mateo because I know, he didn't get to live the life of a normal kid until recently. He had a really cool experience being playing basketball. I thought that was
You
so
did.
amazing.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think for kids, my oldest son has some significant disabilities and they impact kind of all areas of his life: physical, intellectual, visual, uh, neurological. Like there's just, if you can name a scientific area, we're probably connected with it. And of course, this means that there's so many things that he has not been able to participate because of the limitations of his disabilities. There are things we have to do very, very differently. And some things I'm like, I don't even know how we're going to participate in that or if we can. And basketball was one of those things, but he discovered a love of basketball. And through his school district, they promoted a 3-on-3 United tournament for special needs kids to represent their schools in a basketball tournament. I love the structure, how they've got it done, because it really is true inclusion. So, in the 3 that are on the court, and they play half court, 2 kids have disabilities and are from special ed programs, and 1 kid is an able bodied neurotypical kid, probably a PE leadership kid.
Mm.
And those kids help the kids with disabilities. So, funny story, the first day we went to see the game, it was quite entertaining because so many of these kids have never seen a game, never played in a game, never been in a tournament, didn't know what to do. So some examples were, one kid just ran the court with his arms up, just ran the length of the court back and forth because people kept telling him to put his arms up for defense, and that's what he thought he was supposed to do. And another kid got the basketball, got all excited and ran across the court, out the door, and like left. They had to send a search party for him because he wasn't sure what he was supposed to do. Another kid thought it was like football and like literally tackled everybody. And to watch them learn and grow, to watch their schools rally around them. Truly, every time, every game I went to, I got all teary eyed because this was for all of them their first experience of being on a team. My son, in particular, walked around for days holding on to his shirt and doing the sign for shirt. And it took me a while to figure it out. And his big deal was that for the first time ever, he got to wear a school jersey. I didn't know he wanted to do that. He'd never mentioned it before. But this was so profound for him that he was representing his school. So amazing to watch them grow. And they won. My son's school won the tournament and they're going to a provincial championship. It's their first time. He is talking nonstop about taking the coach bus and the ferry, and he has now gotten his hair done
Oh,
for
yeah.
this whole event. Like, it is huge in his world, and he's so excited,
Uh,
as am I.
yeah, I know. I was watching your videos that you posted online, and I was crying along for you because it was just such a huge thing, and it's so amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and such a great experience for him and the other kids too. I think the whole school kind of got into it.
They
So
did.
awesome.
And I also want to just address really quickly the fact that this didn't come easily or without challenges.
Mhm.
Because I know you talk a lot about cracking the code. And boy, we've had to, over the years, figure out different ways to crack a lot of different codes to make things happen. And if I could encourage your audience in one thing, it is to never give up.
Yeah.
Really go searching for the answers. And then when you find it, take hold and just go. Put one step in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, and carry on, carrying on. You will get there once you start looking at how you can crack that code.
Yeah, you got to get so creative sometimes. Yeah, and
Mhm.
that's what I love. I mean, you and I went together for podcast school and you created your podcast, Living Your Legacy. And so maybe you can share some of the stories that have been on your podcast for people's legacies that they're creating, because some of the listeners might be thinking, well, I might like to have a legacy, but I don't even know where to start. Give me some ideas.
That is the one thing, the biggest piece of feedback I'm hearing from people who are listening to my podcast is that it's prompting them to think about, what do I want my legacy to actually be?
Mm,
So, some of the people I've interviewed are people who are legacy makers, average, ordinary people. Like, it's someone who might be in the lineup behind you in the grocery store that you would never think is creating this extraordinary thing in their private life. So people who are creating legacies include, I have interviewed an amazing grandma who is parenting her step grandson who has very wicked shaken baby syndrome.
mm,
And he is fully dependent on her. And she created an organization called Love Has No Disability right there. Like, I just fell in love
yeah,
with her.
right.
Um, I have interviewed today, it's Awareness Month this month, and I interviewed a lady who has overcome huge adversity. She's a birth mom who placed her child for adoption. She is a special needs mom. She is a speaker, an author, an advocate. She just advocates so many amazing things. And now she's just on this extraordinary journey. And she talks about her story, how she overcame all of that to get to where she is. I also interview professionals who support legacy makers. The reality is, none of us does it alone. And sometimes it's important to think about um, how you're going to do this. So I've interviewed a lady who does land banking. I didn't even know that
Oh,
was a thing,
yeah.
to talk about this as a way to increase your finances, or money mindset coaches. I've interviewed you, Cora, to talk
Yeah.
about how you can crack the code and one of the methodologies that you can use to do that to move forward. Um, I have upcoming interviews with some really extraordinary people, both legacy makers and the professionals who support them. Sometimes the people I interview are all of those things, which
Yeah.
is really exciting. So, yeah, those are some of the stories we tell.
That's so awesome. As I know part of the reason you're doing this is for supporting your son, but I think you might have some other ideas of some bigger things. Where do you kind of see your legacy journey going?
Oh, if I can if I can inspire one family with a special needs child to dig deeper, because they're already digging deep,
Mhm.
dig deeper to create something extraordinary for their child and to take a few other kids along with them, because that's what we're doing, then I've done my job. If I can inspire somebody to make that decision, to say, I love that they're asking the question, what is my legacy going to be? What do I want it to be? And then how do I do it? Ideally, that question is easy to answer, but lots of times it's not. So I'm in the process right now of designing some courses to help people actually figure out what their legacy is going to be, and then how to go ahead and do that, along with support and encouragement from me, because I am super excited to support people as they're doing that. And again, through my connections, you never know who I'm able to put people together with. And that's one of my favorite things, to put people together and watch the magic happen.
Yeah, so that would be really important because I think, especially when you're raising kids that are special needs, to have the energy, like you have so much energy. I can never get over how much energy you have. You're always doing something new and on to something else, but still having that core, set of things that you're going through. But a lot of parents out there might just not have the energy and to take the time to have those moments to think of even where do they want to go and to know that you can be a resource for them to maybe help them get started in some way.
Would love to, like, would love to. That just speaks right into my heart there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I know like the government stuff is not always that helpful. I know my husband helps a lady that's, got some disabilities, and she would never have even gotten through life if he didn't help her,
Mhm,
support her in some ways. And she has nobody really helping her on her side.
mhm,
And it's so sad for those people. But when it's your own kids, it's a little bit different.
mhm. It's an unfortunate reality that it is, well, having special needs is challenging.
Yeah.
Trying to navigate a system that's not, it's convoluted at best, is challenging. And a lot of people with disabilities are unfortunately trying to kind of power through on their own, as are families with kids with disabilities,
Yeah.
particularly if your child doesn't fit nicely into any box, which mine doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, it can be very lonely and scary, and it doesn't yes, I thank you for saying I have lots of energy. I do. I love to live in hope and optimism, but there are days that I don't, and I would love to, energy is infectious, so
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to connect with other people and breathe some energy and life into them. Sometimes it just takes somebody outside of your own head saying, "You can do this. Try this. Take this one step."
Yeah.
And then it all kind of starts.
Yeah. And it is one of those kind of weird things. I know when my kids, I have twins, and when my kids were little, I was in a mother's twins group. And when I was having a bad day, when I went to a meeting and met the other moms, there's always someone else that was kind of having a worse day. So then
Mhm.
it puts your, issues into perspective too. So sometimes having support is just knowing that other people can at least relate to what you're going through.
Absolutely. That's so important for sure, because it takes away that feeling of I'm alone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because that's a very emotional time. So, where's some ways that people can get a hold of you if they want to learn more, reach out, learn more about either the special needs things or, starting a legacy? Because really, you're a good connection for either one of those topics.
Well, thank you. I have a website. It is livingyourlegacy.ca, because I'm in Canada. You can reach me via email. Same thing, Michelle at livingyourlegacy.ca. I'm on Facebook. Love to connect with people on Facebook. We do have a Facebook group, the Living Your Legacy podcast Facebook group. More than happy to have people join us there. Think that's lots of places. I'm on Instagram. I'm on
Yeah, yeah.
TikTok. I'm all over the place.
Yeah. Oh, it'll all be in the show notes anyways if you can't write that all down because Michelle's everywhere. No, that's awesome. So, well, just as we're kind of wrapping up here, Michelle, what's some maybe one or two thoughts that you can leave people with, either if they've got special needs and their kids are getting older, they're looking for somewhere to go, and maybe something on a, starting a legacy issue.
Okay. Connect with
Would be.
other parents in your area. If you are a special needs parent in your local area who have kids that are a little bit older than yours, because they're a little further ahead down the line than you are, and they are going to be a huge source of information: where to go, where not to go, who to speak with, who not to speak with, websites, videos that are great. They're going to be able to guide you in your local area. So because again, if you're looking at funding and that kind of stuff, that's a local thing.
Yeah.
So if you're a special needs parent, I highly recommend that. I have had that. I've been blessed with that, and I am currently doing that for some people whose children are younger than mine, and it's an amazing support system to have. If you can find a support group locally that is like a parent support group, usually hosted by a nonprofit organization, join it. even if your child doesn't necessarily fit the group, or depending on who's putting it on, it could be the autism group, and if your child doesn't have autism, nevertheless it's still a good idea to connect, because you don't know where that's going to lead you. So I would recommend those things as starting places, and of course reach out to me. I'm super happy to chat with people.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about starting a legacy, two thoughts on that. One, ask yourself what you're passionate about.
Mm.
Like, really, what motivates you? If you had to do something for free that nobody ever paid you for, what would it be? And then start thinking about how you can create something in that area. So if you're passionate about animals, reach out to like the ASPCA and connect with them. If you're passionate about children, you might want to connect with a children's hospital and ask them what they need, or the kind of support they have, or a Ronald McDonald House for sick kids, or hospice. Or if you're passionate about elder care, reach out, do some Google searching, right? Find out, think about what you're passionate about, and then have a look at it. So that's one thought. And then the second thought would be to start today.
Yeah.
Don't leave it. Don't put it aside. The reality is the world needs more optimism and care and compassion now. And the work that you do today will cause positive ripples that move into the future, long around you and beyond you, that you will never even know about. Start today.
Yes. I would highly, I was just going to say that because we're just going to end off here. And that's exactly what I was going to say. Don't delay, take a few minutes, think about it, and then go for it.
Mhm.
Because no matter what, it's never too late.
It